Hello everyone, I'm first mate James.
First mate again? Shocking.
Joined by cabin boy Oscar Deas.
Can I please let me be captain?
Alright, you can be captain for the purposes of this video. We're here to talk about Sea of Thieves. So Oscar, you went to Rare.
I did.
You had a great day out at Rare.
I did. Up north in England.
How long did you play Sea of Thieves for?
About 2 hours of gameplay all told.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing right now is 4K gameplay that Oscar captured on PC. You might notice that it's a little bit quiet.
Yeah.
So we had some issues with capture. There was a weird kind of sound effect that I couldn't get rid of. We asked Rare for a clean copy of the audio, and sadly the party chat was hard-coded into it, so it would sound very strange if we were talking over this gameplay and you could hear other people talking. So I've just kind of muted it, but I did scour some audio libraries to find some pirate appropriate music. So sorry about that, but you can see what the game looks like. It's very pretty.
It is very pretty, isn't it?
So Oscar, I've played like maybe an hour and a half of Sea of Thieves as well. And it's a game that, when you're playing it, I really, really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. And I was having a lot of fun with my friends. But the act of actually explaining it to people, I feel like it's a game that doesn't really translate when you try and explain the premise.
Yeah, it's a really difficult game to sort of sell in one. It doesn't have like one big hook other than it's a pirate game. Like, I didn't really know what you do in Sea of Thieves until I played it.
It has a very clear premise. You're a pirate.
Yeah.
You have a crew.
But what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
So what that actually means, Lucy, is you pick up quests, you go on voyages, you get plunder and loot, or you kill a skull captain, and then you take his skull back to one of 3 factions, and then you get rewards for it, and then you go and do that again. And on your voyages, you might bump into random enemies in the world, or you might bump into other human crews that are on their own ships. And that's sort of it, really. It sounds very basic when I explain it like that, but there's a lot of intricacies to it that when you're playing it reveal themselves. So on each ship, you each have your own role, so you can go up in the crow's nest and you can be the lookout on your ship, or you can be the one driving the ship, or you can be the one on the cannons, manning the cannons, making sure that there's no other enemy ships coming to fight you and steal all of your loot. Because that's the other thing as well. When you go off on quests and you bring loot back, you have to protect it. Like, you don't get the rewards straight away. You only get the rewards when you get back to the outpost and you give that loot to the captain of the faction that you've taken that quest from. You might have to fix leaks in the hull of the ship if you've been attacked. So there's a lot of things to do on your voyage, and each of those sound quite basic, I guess, but they are very fun in practice. And the fun, at least in my experience of playing it for 2 hours, with a bunch of other journalists at Rare, was the fun came from pretending to be pirates and chatting to your friends and having each of those roles and working together as a team.
Yeah, so when you gave me the footage and I was looking through it to cut this video, you gave me, helpfully, thank you very much for this, you gave me timestamps of when you were doing stuff, because I think the video file was like an hour and a half long, but there were very long, like 5-10 minutes where you weren't actually really doing anything. You were just sort of voyaging from one island to the other. And just looking at that footage, I can see that doesn't look interesting. But I know, having played the game, that actually is. Because you are looking at the beautiful horizon, the sea, you can get your instruments out and have a dance with the people that you're on a voyage with. And it is kind of a very strange experience, because it is immersive to a point where it's just enjoyable. You're walking around and you are a pirate. And
it's pleasant.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because I imagined being a pirate was very dangerous and a
lot of scurvy.
Yeah, exactly. There's no scurvy in this, thankfully.
Good.
At least as far as I know.
Yes, the infamous scurvy mechanic.
But yeah, it's very relaxing. And then it does obviously get exciting when you bump into other crews or whatever. And the other thing as well, I should say, I didn't get a chance to play by myself. So there is a smaller ship. Nice.
Thank you.
So there is a smaller ship that you can pilot. Is that the right word? Are you a pilot? Steer? Yeah, whatever that word is.
Take control of?
That's a good shout, yeah. So there is a smaller ship that you can take control of, which I didn't get to try. So if you don't want to... Because when the game releases in the real world, If you don't want to play with your mates, or if your mates haven't got the game,
or if you haven't got any mates,
although obviously I've got loads of friends, Lucy, please don't throw that accusation at me.
Alright.
You can just matchmake with randomers.
Okay.
But if you don't want to do that, then you can just go out by yourself. But this is where I think it might be a crucial issue for Sea of Thieves. So if the game comes out and the community isn't very good, or if you just really don't like playing with other people, then I feel like it could fall flat on its face, because unfortunately there's nothing really at the moment to stop people who are playing by themselves from taken advantage of by bigger crews. Because it's...
What do you mean?
Well, so when you get into a fight with another crew, it's manic. Like, you have so much to do all of a sudden. You have to man the cannons, you have to drop the anchor, you have to steer, that's the other thing as well.
Right.
You have to steer the sails as well, so you catch the wind. So there's so many things to do. And if you've also got a leak in the bottom hull as well, then you've got to go down and fix that.
So you still have to do all that even though you're on your own.
Exactly.
That, to me, yeah, I can totally see what you're saying. That feels like it's not gonna work.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough if you're out there by yourself. And the other thing as well, there's nothing really at the moment to stop enemy crews. I know Nick, our US Sea of Thieves expert, Captain Nick, he was playing the beta, and he said he ran in a few occasions where he was heading back to an outpost after completing a quest, and he'd get back to the outpost, and there would be a team of 4 or 2 teams of 4 just camping there waiting for him to get back so that they could steal his loot and get the rewards for it.
So there's nothing in place. Because
No.
I remember reading that Rare were implementing some things to kind of try and prevent griefing, but it was mostly within team griefing. That you could
exactly.
Lock someone in the brig, for example.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing as well. I've seen stories of people who have joined, who matchmaked randomly into other teams. Like a team of 3 has had one randomer in, and they've just voted to put them in the brig, and then you're sort of stuck there for 20 minutes. And the only thing you can do is quit the game and come back in. Which
and
seems
hope that you get matchmaked with a different team.
And it seems an inelegant solution. And with the outpost thing, I did ask them about this. And they said their defense was, well, we're always adjusting the size of the world, and we specifically put the outposts in particular places so that not all of the outposts in the world can be camped on.
Right.
And if you see someone in the distance, then you can just go to another outpost. But if you're by yourself, you might not have the ability to be in the crow's nest if you're also steering, so you might not have that visibility. It's going to be tricky.
Yeah, I mean, so when I was playing, I remember steering the ship, and you kind of actually can't see what you're looking at. You can't see stuff on the horizon.
Yeah, especially with the sails.
The sails.
Yeah.
So I imagine doing that as a single player would be taxing. So
Yeah.
I am very interested to see how the community will respond to that.
And it's tricky as well, because that is where the fun of playing as a crew comes from, because that was a very deliberate choice, because if you're the one steering, you can't see most of the time because the sails are in the way, and you can't navigate as well because the map is actually below you on another level of the ship.
Yes.
So that inherently creates teamwork, because you have to communicate with your team and they have to tell you which way to go, and that is where a lot of the fun comes from. But if you're by yourself, that's also very difficult. So I think it's going to be tricky. And the other issue that I think the game might have as well is, or at least a concern that a lot of people in the community have at the moment, is whether or not it's going to have enough content.
Yes. So the beta got data mined, didn't it, recently?
It did.
And people... Yeah, these concerns was definitely raised. What did you think about the content that because were you seeing, I assume it wasn't final code, but it must have been Rare's internal...
Yeah, it was their sort of private test server, basically.
Right.
And so we had the full map available to us.
How big is it? I mean,
Well,
that's a ridiculous question.
We tried asking them that, and they were very coy. They they refused to put an exact square kilometerage on it. They refused to put an amount of ships on it. All they said was, we want you to be bumping into another ship every 15 to 30 minutes. And they said they're constantly adjusting the map to fit that.
So basically they haven't got the final thing yet.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fine.
Yeah.
With regards to content, I really enjoyed what was there. And definitely they were talking about the progression system, and they were talking about how they're going to add more quests and potentially more factions, because at the moment there's 3 main ones. There's the Gold Hoarders, which will task you with getting treasure. There's the Order of Souls, which will task you with hunting enemy captains and bringing their skull back. And there's the Merchants Alliance, which are a bit more passive, and they're sort of more centered around you going to get chickens and pigs and rare animals in the world.
What does being a member of that each guild sort of grant you?
So you don't become a member. You just take a quest off of them, and then you vote on which quest you want to do as a crew.
Right.
And then when you bring what they want, the bounty, back to them, you get rewards like XP and gold that you can then spend on cosmetic items, basically. And there's no microtransactions. They confirm that. But I'm struggling to see whether there's going to be any depth, particularly in the combat where all of the weapons essentially behave the same. Like, you can get a different coloured gun,
right?
But it's still the same gun, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so there's no, like RPG tree kind of thing. It all kind of boils down to you get XP, you level up, you get gold, which you can use to buy cosmetic items like...
You can get new cutlasses and a new compass, but these all are cosmetic changes.
Purely cosmetics. They don't provide any additional bonuses.
Absolutely none. They were very adamant that they didn't want to unbalance it for new players.
Okay.
And I think that's admirable, but at the same time, I think that does create some issues. Like, if I'm 200 hours in and I'm still using the same musket that I was using.
Yeah, what if you just really like that musket?
I mean, sure, but maybe I want a new musket by that point.
Yeah.
And so that is a concern. But yeah, I think it's admirable that they've made it so that new players, even if you're getting it this time next year, you'll still be able to go in there and you'll have the exact same equipment. And even really, like, a lot of people have been playing it as an FPS, and I don't think it really is one. Like, it doesn't... The combat is fairly simplistic, so it's not like something like Call of Duty or Battlefield or Rainbow Six Siege or Overwatch. You're not going to... If you're 300 hours in, you're probably not going to be that much better at it.
Right.
The progression in that sense will come from your knowledge of the map. And they haven't said whether or not they plan to add more maps or expand the current one, but they said, like, it's a very deliberate choice that the map will stay pretty much the same, and that when you're 300 hours in, you'll know that map a lot better. And so when you get a quest that requires you go to a specific island, you'll know where that is immediately, and you might have an advantage over newer players in that sense.
But is that... I mean... Part of me is like, I admire them for not wanting to unbalance things and everything, but is cosmetic purchasable items enough to keep people coming back?
Well, I think it depends on what else they add on the new quests and the new factions and
I was
all
going to say,
the
because
live
speaking
content.
as someone who buys Overwatch loot boxes just for those sweet skins, for me it is.
Yeah.
But then, they do that in a way where it's like themed and stuff. So I mean,
who knows? Maybe Rare will do that with Sea of Thieves. Maybe you'll get Halloween Sea of Thieves costumes, and maybe you'll get Christmas.
That would be cool.
That would be cool, and I hope they're looking into doing that kind of thing. But it's hard to say at this stage whether or not it's going to be enough. There aren't any microtransactions, so it's not their way of just trying to get money out of people, and it's not pay to win. So that's admirable. But yeah, I think it's hard to say at this stage. And the same with the quests as well. Like, at least in the limited amount that I played, the quests all seemed pretty similar. You go off, you get a thing, you come back. You go off, you get a thing, you come back. And there's going to be more quests and they're going to get more complex. So I don't want to definitively say there's no depth. But at the moment, it looks as if it's a little light on content. Like, the comparison that specifically when they were talking about all the live content they're going to add, and it sounds like there's going to be new like public events and stuff. Like, one example they gave was you'll get an event in game where there'll be a load of black clouds will sort of come over this island in the distance, just sort of randomly, and that's sort of their version of a public event, and that will attract a load of ships to that island, because that essentially means there's like a big treasure to be found on that island.
What, a battle royale to get it?
Exactly,
so
yeah.
That sounds cool. And I mean, I think the question of depth is also, it depends how much you as the player and you as a crew put into it, because it feels to me like Sea of Thieves is going to be one of those games where you create your own stories.
Definitely, yeah.
And the world, the game itself is sort of just a backdrop. Feels like Sea of Thieves is going to be one of those games where you can just settle into it. It's not always going to be high octane, pow, 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 action. It gives you these moments to sort of just relax and chill out with your friends in a not in an overwhelming kind of environment.
Yeah.
But then, you know, it leads up to you kind of all get together, and when everyone's ready, then you can take on these quests if you choose to, and then just kind of mess about.
Definitely,
sailing around the high
it's a
seas.
hangout game, really, and that's great. And I think it will be, at least I think the groundwork is there for it to be very successful as that. But when they're talking about public events and how they're going to add new live content, and they spoke a little bit about their end game as well, which is where you become a pirate legend and you get access to sort of exclusive quests. And I think that's really exciting. But the comparison I sort of found myself making in my head when I was playing it was, this is a bit sort of like Destiny, but with pirates.
Is Destiny the new Dark Souls?
And if you compare it to Destiny,
Yeah.
there's a lot less in there. Like Destiny has the campaign, and then there's the Crucible, and then there's strikes, and then there's raids. And Sea of Thieves doesn't really have all of that. It just sort of has the hanging out bit of it.
But it seems like there is the possibility that could happen, and the game can evolve.
Definitely, and I
time.
think they made they didn't commit to this, but they said they want to make it a 10-year project. Again, a bit like Destiny.
Hang on,
Yeah,
I've heard
we've
that
heard
before.
This, yeah, exactly. And definitely they seem really, really passionate about it, and I genuinely believe that they will add new content, and I think that content will be really cool. Like they teased the Kraken as well, which is going to be a really cool thing. But yeah, I'm a little worried about its depth at the moment. I can see myself, if I and 3 mates get this, I can see us having a great time, but then is that new content going to be enough? The only way we'll know is actually playing it after release. So I know we're sort of speculating at this point. So
And I suppose as well, they don't want to reveal all their cards before
definitely, yeah.
release, and it's kind of unfair to sort of preemptively judge it, but it's certainly right to raise concerns.
Yeah, sure.
And, you know, based on the fact that we've both spent quite a lot of time in the game by now. Actually, certainly more than most games that we get to play pre-release.
Yeah, they've sort of had, their betas and alphas have been going on since August last year.
Yeah.
So they've it's been a long lead up to this game coming out, and obviously with the delay as well. So in conclusion, really, I'm really excited to try it when it's out in the wild and when I can play it with friends. I have concerns about its longevity and about what it's like if you're playing by yourself, but definitely the groundwork is there for it to be a really, really cool, hopefully expansive multiplayer adventure.
Well, all right, those are our impressions on the recent hands-on of Sea of Thieves. Oscar, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much. Make sure to subscribe, me hearties.
This is upsetting. Arr, or you'll walk the plank. I'm so sorry. But for more on Sea of Thieves, make sure to check back here to GameSpot. I will never do that voice again.